to the Quiet Warrior Show, where we help top leaders find their pathway to incredible success and a lifetime of happiness. Here is your host, Tom Dutta, the Quiet Warrior.
Well, welcome to the Quiet Warrior Show. My name is Tom Dutta, and I am the Quiet Warrior. I'm super excited to have on my show today Mr. Ricky Shetty. Ricky, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Tom. It's a joy and a pleasure to connect with you. It's an honor to be on your podcast.
It absolutely is. And you know what? I'm already vibrating with excitement here, and I'll tell you why. I mean, you're over in the Philippines. I'm up here in Western Canada, Vancouver, which I know is part of your roots. The power of technology, and it seems like we're just sitting together. So welcome aboard.
It does feel like we're just sitting at a Starbucks hanging out.
There you go. Well, Ricky, why don't we get right to it? Because this is about you. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Yeah, sounds good. I'm happily married to my lovely wife, Anne. I have three wonderful kids, Rianne, who's 6, Ryan, who's 4, and Renzo, who's 2. And I'm known as the daddy blogger. I'm traveling around the world for the last couple of years, and I work online, and I love inspiring other people to see this incredible world that we all live in.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, and we have some things in common already. My wife's name is Anna. We just have to put an A at the end, and I have 3 kids too. You know, I want to just say before I build you up a bit, Ricky, because you're a humble guy, and when I asked you to be on the show, it was because, you know, I've met you before, but I took note, and I wanted the listeners to know this. I took note about what you've been doing, and when I first saw this daddy blogger, I went, what is that? But as I looked deeper into the mind and soul of this man, Ricky Shetty, I was quite inspired. I've read a book you've written. I took it with me on a 5-day retreat with my wife, and it inspired me, and I'll talk about that as well. But for all of those, to add a little bit more about Ricky, he's the owner and operator of Daddy Blogger. And he writes about parenting from a father's perspective with a lot of emphasis on, guess what, kids and travel, go figure. And he's been traveling around the world. I know we might hear a bit of that in the story today, traveling through many countries, Asia, Middle East, Africa. I believe that the vision and the goal is to be the first family that travels across the world. Just blows my mind with that. I'm so excited to hear about it. And then the other thing is that you're an author. You've written many books. One I just mentioned, I'll talk about. So we'll get into that later as well. And, you know, I want to say as we go further, Ricky, that, you know, the people that come on my show have greatness within them like you. We're interested in the backstory as well, the hero's journey. You know, when you heard this call to adventure to do what you did, you know, usually that happens when it's not a greatest time in our life. But you've done something here that is unique, and it's put you on a world stage to be a thought leader about parenting. But take us back to where it all began. Take us back, and I know you have an interesting life that didn't always start off as great as others.
Yeah, no, we can trace it back all the way to the beginning. So my mom and dad, they're immigrants from India. They had an arranged marriage. And when they immigrated to Vancouver, BC, Canada, they actually didn't have a very good start to their marriage. There's a lot of fighting. It eventually turned into domestic violence. My father was very violent towards my mom, giving her black eyes and hitting her with belts and slippers and shoes and committing adultery. And just it was quite traumatic in terms of the newlywed couple. And then in the midst of all that, I was born. So it's probably not the best situation to bring a little baby into the world in. Well, that was my reality. So I grew up in a very traumatic, dysfunctional family. I was quite confused. I grew up very shy, very introverted, very insecure. In high school, you probably know they have these high school annuals. I did not get voted most handsome, surprise, or best athlete. I actually got voted most shy. So I'm the quiet warrior as well, because I was just the quiet, shy guy, but I didn't know I was a warrior as well. So this quiet kid in the high school, very broken, very insecure, needed to be healed. So in my early 20s, that's when I went on my healing journey. I started going to counseling. I started studying religion. I studied psychology in the university, at University of British Columbia. So through the whole process, I actually ended up becoming a Christian as well. I grew up a Hindu, became a Christian. And at the point where I became a Christian, there's this big emphasis on forgiveness. And I went through this huge process where I was able to look my dad in the eye and say, I love you, I forgive you. And I just started crying, welling up inside. And I went through this big release, the inner release. But even after that, I wasn't fully, completely, totally healed. And I didn't know if we'll ever be so. But here I am, like in my early 40s now, 41. And leading up to, from my 20s into my 30s, I had a lot of fears, Tom. Fears of getting married, fears of repeating the same mistakes as my dad, fears of getting a divorce. And if we don't heal ourselves, we'll just repeat the mistakes of our parents. Again, I had to deal with all the fears now. So that's why I ended up writing this book and becoming the daddy blogger, because I needed to firstly find out how to be a good dad. So the best way to find out how to be a good dad was not to ask my dad who wasn't a good dad, but to interview good dads. And I interviewed over 100 of them. I put them into the book, and I started writing this blog, daddyblogger.com, to process and to analyze what it means to be a good dad. And here I am now, 3 kids later, and I'm still a work in progress. Like, my wife will be like, Ricky, you need to be a much more better dad. You always talk about it, but live it as well. And I know I spend too much time on my computer, too much time on social media. But here I am, having a great platform called daddyblogger.com, traveling the world now with my wife and kids. And it's been amazing. But as you can imagine, it was very difficult and very challenging as
absolutely. Well, hey, Ricky, first of all, I can feel this energy from you, man. I was vibrating before we started doing this. I think I'm falling off my chair now, and my heart's growing. So I'm going to let you catch your breath and honor you with a few things. So there you were. And, first of all, the honor and the courage to share a painful story. There's many of us who start out with not having nurturing, loving experiences, and to share that sometimes for others could be shame and being vulnerable. Well, man, you're a warrior doing that. What inspires me is there you were, and at a young age, and going through those things, but you took those and you created something with it. You went out and did something with it. One of the things that was interesting you said, and it's been said about me that, believe it or not, about being shy. But I believe that people who are shy just have a motive within them. In the work I do, Ricky, I use some personality science, and I don't know if this is you, but there's a thread of it I hear, and it's the motive of peace and harmony. Can we all just get along? What's interesting is that Canada, where we live, and I know your roots are, Canada is sometimes called a country that's weak because it's shy. I just last night watched This Is It, a Netflix show. My wife was out at a function, so I was on my own, and it was of Michael Jackson's last tour before he died. And they said that about Michael Jackson, that he's meek and weak because he was quiet. But the interesting thing is that people like you, when you put the microphone in Michael's hand and put him on stage, this incredible gifted talent came up. And you look back, and I'll finish with this, turn it back to you, that we look back at Gandhi, who drove out the British Empire from India without using violence. And he was a kind of a shy but a quiet person. So I think you have a lot of strength in you. And when you talk about the fears of marriage and all, it just brings me back to talking about me and many I've met. We fear not being loved. We fear not being enough. And that's a lot of it is because what was told to us when we were younger just isn't true. So there you are traveling. You have the 3 beautiful kids. I'm inspired by all this. Tell us more. Tell us about, how have you navigated and continued to work on that soul that you have, but also tell us more about your work and why blogging and about the travel. Share some experiences with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love always going back to origin, like why did I start Daddy Blogger and why did we start traveling? So back in Vancouver, I'd become very much a domesticated, suburbanized dad. I had these 3 kids, and I was working as an event producer, and I was feeling discontent. I was feeling depressed. I was feeling down. I was longing and yearning for the sense of adventure. I'd done a lot of travel in my 20s, but once I got married, you typically kiss the travel goodbye and you become focused on the kids. And I was like, okay, do I have to wait till I become an empty nester? Is there a way we can do this? So I wrestled within myself, and I started talking to my wife. I was like, hey, you're going on mat leave and you're still going to be paid for a whole year. And I have an internet marketing business as well. Should we take a chance and do this whole world travel thing? And she was very hesitant. She's like, well, the kids are young, and will they remember anything? And like, what about the finances? And, all the hesitations about safety, security, etc. But finally we decided, we don't want to live our life with regrets. We want to live our life with accomplishments and fulfilling our dreams and living life to the full. So we did just that. We ended up leaving Vancouver, our hometown, to travel, and we decided to do it for a year. And if at any point during this first year of travel, we did not like it, we would turn back and go back to Vancouver. If I didn't like it, if my wife didn't like it, if any of our kids didn't like it, if we as a family unit didn't like it. But guess what? Here we are 2 years later, and we love it. There's obviously been a lot of challenges, financial challenges, emotional challenges, socialization challenges, wondering about the schooling of our kids, and for you just having the stability of friendships and connections. So there have been definitely a lot of challenges, but overall we love the experience of showing our kids this amazing world, and of course building our family unit because we're spending a lot of quality time together, and of course impacting the world. We do a lot of volunteering at different orphanages, and even we do workshops and trainings as we travel. So in terms of the work side of things, so I was doing event production back in Vancouver, but I was already running, daddyblogger.com. I was doing some coaching, consulting. So I ended up closing shop on the event production, which is location dependent, and I fully transitioned into their marketing. Luckily, we had savings. We were able to sell a lot of stuff back in Vancouver. My wife had a mat leave pay, and I was able to, provide a part-time income to help support all that. And as we traveled, I started building up my business, getting more coaching clients, training and teaching people how to become digital nomads, which means basically people work and travel. And then I started launching online courses. I started doing Kindle books. So now I'm at 7 different Kindle books, including my book for dads. And I also have a whole kids book series about the 7 continents. And as I travel, we continue doing our workshops. So here I've done them in Colombia, I've done them in Peru, Nicaragua, and now I'm doing them here in the Philippines. And now I've created a hybrid model where I'll do like physical in-person seminars, workshops, and I'll transition them back into private coaching and small group coaching, mastermind groups, and of course online courses, Kindle books, membership sites, and more. I'm still figuring it out, as us entrepreneurs always do. But so far it's been a struggle, honestly, in terms of especially the finances, because you can imagine the costs associated with flying 3 young kids across the globe and staying in hotels and hostels. One of the things we've been able to do is get a lot of sponsorships through my travel blog. So I get hotels sponsored and sightseeing sponsored and restaurant meals and transport. So that helps cut down the costs that we can travel as long as possible. And as you said in the intro, our big goal is to be the first family in human history to visit every single country in the world, all 193 United Nations member states.
Man, I'm telling you, I just blown my mind here. I'm so proud of you, Ricky. I love you. I love your story. I love your family. I mean, I just can't fathom, and it's part of a limiting belief, I guess. And that's why you can be a mentor to me. I mean, how many of us, I grew up in corporate America, as you know, my background. And, today I do a lot of things helping other people like you, but we sometimes meet a lot of leaders who say, I'm too busy. I don't have time to go on a vacation. And if they do, it's usually a few days or a week, and it's a burnout trip of a lot of travel and stress. And then there you were taking the courage to take the family and go and do that. I want to ask you a question about the family and the impact. What do you think doing this incredible journey that you've been on is going to, what is that going to gift to your children as they get older? What is that?
That's beyond words. At the end of the day, it's transformation. So you're a dad of 3 kids, Tom. I'm a dad of 3 kids. And one of the things us dads, us parents generally want to do is create better global citizens. And I truly feel this: what better way to create the emphasis, the global citizens, than actually seeing the globe. Because if I raised them back in Vancouver, I know 100% with certainty that they would grow up very sheltered. They would be growing up with the Western paradigm of the world. They wouldn't see the poverty that now we see in, like, when it travels through Africa, travels to Latin America, even travels here to the Philippines. Like, there's extreme poverty, and they needed to see that at a very young foundational age, so that they would destroy their privileged upbringing, right? So I had to do that. Like, it was like, as a dad, I was just like, I want to raise the best kids possible, and I feel this is the way to do it. So now, like, how has it transformed them? Like, there are so many ways. Like, it's changed their mindset. It's changed their heart set. It's changed the way they interact with people. It's changed their openness to the world and the openness to different cultures and languages. And I think it's just going to make them better people. And whatever they do in life, whatever job, career, business they do, I really feel these foundational teachings, it's not teachings from books, it's not teachings from classrooms or teachers, it's these teachings from the people they meet and the experiences they have and how their soul and spirit gets transformed will make them into better, will form and shape their, mold their identity into better people. So I can see it. I can see it in the impact it's making it. I can't describe it. I can't put it into words. I'm attempting to, but my words don't do the transformation justice.
Well, you know, I first of all, you can adopt me. I'd like to be your son because I want to go on that trip. My bags are already packed in my mind, Ricky. You sent me on a journey in so many different directions. And what you just said to us was a great leadership lesson for anybody listening to this show. And you and I talked offline about the power of the subconscious mind. I mean, as children coming into the world like you and I were, you know, I learned that we have 2 million neurons in our brains that are empty, and we start putting in thoughts and emotions, wiring that together, and that creates our blueprint. And I started looking at, I wrote this down when you said it earlier, 642, the age of your kids. Man, you're creating a blueprint in the minds of your kids that the world generally will not have the ability to create for children that age. I think it's such a blessing what you're doing for them. And I have one word to describe that, and it comes from somebody else. I'm stealing it, who I met a while ago on my show. And it's worldview. You're giving your kids a worldview. I've met people in business, because that's my background, Ricky, who have said to me they lived here all their life in Canada, went to India and cried and have a life-changing experience that set them on a different path of love and gratitude. So congratulations for all that incredible work you're doing. I'm obviously in the back of my mind, I'm waiting for the next book that's going to tell us about that complete travel story, and you will finish it. I know that one thing about you. I want to kind of shift gears and now get in a little bit to the book. And I took this with me to a retreat, as I mentioned to you offline too, that the book is called The Wisdom from DADS. And what a brilliant, simple, but brilliant idea of interviewing 100 dads. And this comes back to you and I. Our early beginnings weren't so great with our dads, and yet our dads had their own story. So tell me a bit about a few nuggets that you learned from interviewing 100 dads in that book.
You know, at the end of the day, if there was no people who ever read it, like if there was no Tom Dada taking the book, if there's no, like, you know, I've sold, you know, hundreds, if not thousands of copies, like, I wrote the book for me, Tom. I wrote the book for myself to really understand what it takes to be a good dad. Secondly, I wrote it for my kids to leave them a legacy, and they have, you know, something to read that their dad wrote. And thirdly, I've written it for other dads, just like you, Tom. And I'm definitely very encouraged by the fact that you liked it, you enjoyed it, and now you're recommending it. So in terms of the book itself, the process was I interviewed these 100 dads, just like what we're doing now on things like Zoom and Google Hangouts and Skype. I recorded each and every interview. There's actually a link to all 100 dads that you can put in the show notes if you like. So I have these video and audio recordings of all these interviews, and I watched them again after I did them, and I started dissecting and like piecing together what wisdom have they learned, because some of the dads have been just new dads. Some of them are dads of teenagers, dads of adults, empty nest dads, granddads. So there's an incredible wealth of wisdom that I had from interviewing these dads, because what dad goes around and interviews other dads before they become a dad? Not many. So I was like, okay, I've done this. Now I need to share this with others. So I just started boiling it down to like 1 page per dad. And I boiled it down to one nugget of wisdom. And there's like 100 nuggets of wisdom in the book. Like, you know, some of my favorite ones, and my wife's favorite one is chapter 1. It's John Chow, famous internet marketer. He makes like 6 figures a month through his johnchow.com blog. But anyway, his nugget of wisdom for me was nothing to do with money. His nugget of wisdom to me was this: listen to your wife. Tom, is that true or is that true?
It's true.
Yes.
Totally.
My wife tells me this all the time, you know, like when we have an argument, when we have a fight, and I just like, okay, why am I fighting? I just need to listen to her. And then it just, everything turns out good. I mean, another maxim is, you know, happy happy life. If mama's not happy, no one's happy, right? And this is so true to us dads. And if you're struggling in your marriage, you're not following this rule. Happy wife, happy life, right? So that was one nugget of wisdom. I've learned nuggets around education and homeschooling and discipline. One of the kind of common themes that came up in the book was this idea of time. A lot of dads, they're so busy, they're so focused on tasks and work and business that they neglect the actual quality time that kids need. And that nugget of wisdom, I put it down into love is spelled Time. And I constantly need to remind myself when my kids come up to me and they want to talk to me, I can't just say I'm busy. I can't just say, can you wait? I need to actually stop what I'm doing and get down on my knees and play and listen and be with them. So there've been so many nuggets like that. And I would say the last nugget that's really sticking out to me now is the power of words and affirmations. Because the words we say can destroy our kids forever, or it can help create and form and shape their identities forever. So I'm very careful with words, especially when it comes to me saying it to my kids, or even me saying it to my wife about our kids. So it's very important the words we use, not just to our kids themselves, but just talking about our kids, being very positive and uplifting and encouraging and edifying them. And Tom, you're a great edifier. And I think we need to edify our kids just like how you're edifying me and how you constantly edify all your guests. So those are some of the nuggets of wisdom. Again, listen to your wife. Love is spelled T-I-M-E, and the importance of affirming your kids.
Well, I love it. And you're right on all three counts. I mean, I read the book. I was mesmerized. My brain was going in so many different directions. And what I love about what you said at the beginning when I asked you the question was that the book was written for you, and then you wrote it for other dads. And here's the thing, whether people listening to the show or not, Ricky, are from broken homes or not so great dads, all our dads are great. They were born innocent. They were born golden, and life maybe built that cement crust up on those golden Buddha statues. And, that's the kind of dad I had. I never saw him when he was golden. When I read your book, it opened up so many pathways for me about what it looks like to be a great dad. So thank you for the wisdom, because I didn't get that when I grew up. And that book is for anybody. I want to also just say that when I was on the retreat, I had an epiphany. Maybe we'll do this on another show with you. And it led to me. My father passed away in January. The epiphany was that the day I was lying in bed one morning and I started to tear up and I actually broke down. And my dad was speaking to me. This has never happened to me before. I'm not making this story up, by the way. And then after I came to my senses and my wife hugged me, I said, yesterday was Dad's birthday, or it would have been. And we went down to the water and we put some flowers out. We said a prayer. I'd never ever done anything like that in the time with my dad. And when I came back, I sat in the garden. We were at this retreat that's a cottage looking out into the gardens, almost like Butchart Gardens or a Japanese garden, serene, peaceful, quiet, not far from the water. I could hear that. And, Ricky, I had your book with me, and I took out a notepad and I journaled. And I journaled, and the topic of my journal is how to be a frequent father, not a frequent flyer. Because I orphaned my daughter for 5 years when I became a leader and traveled. And I came up with 10 things. So, you know what? I want to thank you, because not only did you inspire me to write my own journal, but I learned a lot from your book, and I'd love to talk more about that another time. As I come to the wrap up here, I want to do a couple things. One is just to ask you, Ricky, that if I met you on the street after reading your book and knowing a bit about your story, which is, by the way, amazing, and I said, what is your purpose on the planet? What did God put you here to do? Because your work's not done yet. What would you say?
My greatest pain has become my greatest passion and purpose. My greatest pain was a lack of family, my broken family. And now my greatest purpose is to build strong fathers, marriages, and families. So that's, at the end of the day, what I want to do. Of course, at the end of the day, my own family, I got to live the message. And then I want to help other dads, other moms, and other families be the strongest families they can be. And of course, raise the strongest kids they can be, which of course impacts the world and impacts the future. So that's my mission, Tom.
Wow, I'm going to go back and listen to this just for that. Not bad from a self-confessed shy guy. And so as I wrap up here, and then we're going to let you tell us where to get your body of work and connect to you, I want to honor you, Ricky, with four, I might have, four on my list here, words. These are leadership words. I write them down as I interview the guests. They're not scripted. They're from my heart based on what I've heard. Number one, man, is you are courage. The courage to do what you've done with your beginnings and make people great. Awesome. Two is vision. You have this world vision. It's happening in front of us. Three, world view. You bring a world view in when you speak and you bless us. And then four is love. You are love, man. It comes out of you, and I'm just so proud of you, and I do love you too. And so let's turn it back to you, Ricky. I want you to just tell us quickly how to connect to your body of work, including your blog, and where we can get your books.
I received those words. Thank you, Tom. What powerful words. Thank you. So it's very easy to connect with me. I'm known as the Daddy Blogger, so check out daddyblogger.com. And through there, you'll be able to connect with me through my email list, through my social media. I have a YouTube channel that I'm quite active in terms of posting travel and business-related content. I have a podcast as well, which Tom's been a guest on. I have 500 episodes there, interviewing different digital nomads, world travelers, entrepreneurs. And of course, I have all my books and Udemy courses and coaching programs and more. But the central hub for all those things is daddyblogger.com.
Well, that's awesome. And I just want to build on that and say that if you really listen to Ricky today, everybody, what he's done with digital marketing in his business is incredible. Many people can learn from him from that too. So make a connection to Ricky and find this show on iTunes, The Quiet Warrior Show, subscribe to it and give this episode a rating so we can honor Ricky's work. And you know what? I encourage you to find his blog, pick up any one of those books. My favorite is The Wisdom from Daddies. And find that true passion like Ricky did. Live with your purpose and live the life that you deserve and desire.
Thank you for listening to The Quiet Warrior Show. Create is a motive-based leadership development firm. www.kreat.ca